I'm Cadi. I'm heading up commercial innovation over at Clear Channel. And as Vinny said, I want to kind of share with you what's going on at Clear Channel, but actually across the out-of-home sort of media space as a whole, because we're going through a period of rapid change at the moment. And again, per the introduction, there's a huge amount of opportunity for video, just in a much bigger format than you're used to seeing it. Around 2 years ago, we switched to this mission statement, creating the future of media out of home. And initially, it was really around switching to digital panels rather than, we call them classic, but the paper and paste billboards that you might have traditionally thought of in out of home. We now have around 7,000 digital panels in the UK, so it's around 15% of our inventory, but it's also now already around 55% of our revenue. So digital is taking off fast. But I wanted to talk a little bit about, I know this is a video event and not an out-of-home event, so I thought it might be helpful to start with a little bit of information about why brands use out-of-home. Why do they come to our medium? So, there we go. So normally it's one of these three reasons. So starting with reach, you can reach with any of the main media owners in out-of-home in the UK. In one single day across their digital estate, you can reach more people than you can reach at the X Factor final. You can reach more people you can reach in a print newspaper. So you really can get scale across the whole of the country very, very quickly. People also use it because we are closest to point of sale. I know a lot of people think about mobile as being what you're using when you're out and about, but as you're on the high street, as you're in shopping malls, as you're going into supermarkets, quite often the last thing that you will see, and certainly the last large format advertising, is an out-of-home panel. And finally, fame. It really is the last big mass media as people are switching to how they're consuming TV content. People are still going out of doors. People are still spending time in cities, in fact, more and more now than ever before. And so lots of brands use out of home as their sort of platform to make their public promises, to put their brands out and drive fame for their brands. And so what I wanted to talk to you today about is a little bit about how out-of-home companies are thinking about programmatic or automation. I don't know, am I going to get a blast of truth bombs hitting me? So how we think about that coming revolution. So programmatic for out-of-home really is that automation of the end-to-end process, from planning with a particular audience in mind, through to creative executions, again, with the right relevant content for your audience, through to measurement, reporting on the campaign, so you can judge the effectiveness, and all of that with that underlying focus on audience. That's quite different to perhaps how out-of-home, how programmatic started in other medias. There are some core differences with out-of-home that I wanted to call out to you. Firstly, it seems really obvious, but we have finite inventory, right? If Kim Kardashian gets mugged, we don't suddenly get a load of female millennial inventory or panels in front of those women. If a bank goes under, we don't suddenly get a load of extra panels sort of down the road in the city from here. So our inventory is finite. What that means is that our sales teams know exactly what we have to sell at any point, and they go out and they do their jobs and they sell it. So we can't approach programmatic in the same way that it started in online. We can't look at a sort of remnant environment, because advertisers will not be able to reach the audiences that they want to if they're only relying on the inventory we have left over. It might sound weird to some of the online media owners here, but our sell-through rates, or we talk about occupancy rates, are normally north of 90%, quite often north of 95%. So if you try to give a brand that 5% that's left over, it's not going to meet their needs in terms of being in the right place at the right time to reach the audience that they want to reach. The other big difference is it's one-to-many. I'm really sorry if this is all really obvious. I'll move faster. But this idea that it's one-to-many, you're not seeing out of home in a small direct environment, which means you're always reaching multiple audiences. You're always reaching people, lots of different people with lots of different characteristics. So that idea of audience has to shift a little bit in out of home. Audience sentiment is also quite different. We heard just before the break around ad blocking in desktop, particularly in the gaming environment. I had no idea it was quite so high in front of those audiences. But people love out of home. It is the media with the single biggest favorability index. I just, earlier today, I saw a new report that had come out, and I tweeted it, so find me on Twitter to see the update, but it was 55% of people look favorably on out of home versus 49% looking favorably on TV. So people love it. Impact, it's huge, right? People, you can't really miss it. This example behind us is on the main route out to Heathrow. And this is actually the first format that we traded programmatically. So there's a piece around the premium nature of our inventory and the impact that has. But the last two pieces are maybe areas that we have a lot of work still. Areas on which we have a lot of work still to do. Does that work? Automation to start with. In any market, I have between 4 and 13 different CMSs in place. There's no DFP, there's no App Nexus for the Shipstead guy earlier. There's no concentrated single source of truth across all of the media owners. We all have different technologies in place, and we're all working really, really hard to join the dots on those to make it easier for our customers to go through that end-to-end process to buy. And finally, I've kind of skipped back one, but that real-time risk is really important. We haven't talked much today about brand safety, but in out-of-home, the risk is on the media owners much more than the brand. There's no other content on our panels. It's just the ad itself. So the only potential risk is serving an ad in a place that you wouldn't have wanted it to be, which is normally okay for a brand because it's still going to be big and it's still going to reach lots of people. The problem for a media owner is if you serve an ad in the wrong place, you can lose a contract with a city. And the contracts we have in place with our landlords, normally with councils or cities, those contracts are anywhere between 7 and 15 years. So if we were to get kicked out of a city, that would be a really, really big deal for us. So I think it's the biggest thing I've learned is that brand safety piece runs both ways, depending on which media type you're working with. So coming in to talk more about the automation and what we've been doing so far. Most people in out of home, when you say programmatic to them, it's like you're swearing at them. They think you're talking about the shitty, cheap end of the spectrum. All of you guys, sorry, should I not swear? Most people, when they hear programmatic, that's the assumption that they have. Now, I'm assuming that pretty much everyone in this room is trading programmatically. They know that that's not where realistically programmatic is right now, and particularly not in the video space where you're often paying higher CPMs than you would be if you were trading direct. This chart shows what we're doing at Clear Channel and how we're approaching programmatic. We're actually starting with programmatic direct, programmatic guaranteed, automated guaranteed, whatever you want to call it. But with that direct, fixed volume, guaranteed approach, because we have to be able to deliver what our advertisers want in our medium, and that is to be in a particular place at a particular time. And so how are we doing this? I've got this beautifully simplified chart. Hopefully this works. The first thing we've been working on is this internal automation. So understanding which audiences are passing which of our panels at what times, so we can help advertisers to target the right audiences for their brands. And there are lots of other people helping with that data piece as well. from the packaging and pricing, if someone wants to go ahead and buy one of those audience-targeted packages, we then are building our own scheduling and optimization engine, ensuring that we're able to deliver the maximum number of campaigns, and where we have campaigns that have to be delivered in certain locations. If you want one campaign, if I've got two campaigns, one is to reach millennials and one is to be within 100 meters of a boot store, there's obviously only so many factors I can move on both of those, but the one near the boot stores has to be in that location at that time. The millennials one, maybe I've got some more freedom to move that around as long as I'm delivering against that audience target. So that scheduling and optimization process is kind of new for out-of-home, even though it's something we're all used to in an online environment. And finally, play and post and all of the reporting and measurement that go along with that. It's all stuff that we're having to develop and having to automate, because at the moment, pretty much all of those processes are lots of people behind lots of screens doing this manually. And we know that that's not scalable. It's not, or there's lots of scope for human error. We automated that across our first product in the UK earlier this year and launched in April. And we've seen significant success and engagement from advertisers who've been logging in initially through our ad platform across those APIs to connect into our packages and run those transactions. We're actively working to connect at the moment into planning buying tools, so that if you're an agency and you're planning your media, you can commit directly through your own tools rather than have to exit and coming to the Clear Channel platform. And then finally, we're in lots of conversations with DSPs about getting connected there. They're dragging their heels a little bit, so if anyone is working in a DSP, come talk to me afterwards. I'd like to make that move faster. I guess what I wanted to, the real takeaway is that this is a really simple diagram of a huge amount of internal work that is going on behind the scenes. But from the what really to the why, we know that out of home works really well with other media. People talk about dual screening all the time, right? In a TV context, what they don't necessarily talk about is people dual screening or triple screening when they're out of home. But that happens, and we're seeing an increasing number of reports. This came out earlier this year, I think in March, from Nielsen, showing the effectiveness out of home of driving interactions online. So across whatever type of online activation you want to track, out of home is making people take action. The next piece of the next report I'll share is actually a little bit older. It's about 18 months old. It comes from Outsmart, which is a bit like the IAB for out of home. It's our measurement body. And they ran a study where they installed on participants' mobiles some software that would track their location, and it would track their activity on their mobiles. And they found that out of home drove huge success, particularly in reaching new users. So they were able to see, as a person moved through a city, they were able to see which out-of-home ads they were exposed to, and then track, did they take actions on their mobile off the back of that? I think that's really interesting when we see more and more of the focus of online going towards retargeting existing users, thinking about how you can use your video content to combine with other media, use it across other media to reach new and lapsed audiences as a way of expanding the funnel of users that you're targeting. So we know that mobile works really, really well with out of home. And this is an example we ran earlier this year for the launch of the Calvin Harris album. I'm not a massive dance music fan, but effectively, but even I can figure out how this works. The funny bit that looks like sort of music signals in the middle of the ad there is actually a Spotify code. And so there, if you searched, if you logged into the Spotify app, you go into the search functionality, there's a little camera signal. You can take a photo of that code, and you could download the Calvin Harris album free to play. What I would love to do is do a similar thing with a video partner. So someone who's got video content to share and would like to reach a large audience out of home, come talk to me. I'll be around if there's another break coming up, because out of home and mobile is a brilliant partner. We're also seeing a much more use of dynamic creative in out of home. So this campaign actually ran in France earlier this year. Oh, it's not clicked on yet, sorry. It didn't animate like that, that's just my animation, sorry. But the campaign would change depending on which routes Air France were trying to promote at that particular time, and any particular sale prices that they had to promote. Hopefully it wasn't bait and change, as people heard Google talking about this morning. But we've also seen examples of DCO in terms of the way that Very work with us. They dynamically insert the products into their out-of-home ads based on what's trending on their search on their site at any time. And so we have the opportunity to really make something new and huge, to use the ideally, full motion vertical video content that you have, not necessarily on the streets, but certainly in indoor, outdoor, so in malls and retail environments, in pedestrianized areas. We can run full motion video. We can run dynamic content. So come and talk to us about creating the future of media out of home. Thank you.